recognized.
Wait, do it again.
Yeah.
Watch it. Do it again.
Yeah.
She was alone, late at night, walking a forest trail with nothing but darkness on either side of her. No companion, just the sound of her own footsteps and the occasional rustle of something in the trees. Then she stopped. Up ahead, 4 figures, standing perfectly still in the middle of the path, not moving, not speaking, not reacting to her presence at all. Every single one of them was dressed in white, head to toe, and each one was wearing a mask. Now think about that for a second. 4 people in matching white clothing, wearing masks, standing in complete silence in the middle of a forest trail at night. There's no version of that scenario that feels okay. She didn't call out. She didn't ask if they needed help. Every instinct in her body told her not to get any closer. So she did the only thing that made sense. She raised her phone, snapped a photo as fast as she could, and walked away. Quickly. The footage was uploaded afterward, confirming she made it home safe. But here's what nobody could answer. Who were those 4 people? Why were they there? Why were they dressed like that? And why were they just standing there in total silence, in the middle of the woods, in the dark? No one came forward. No explanation was ever offered. Those 4 figures are still unidentified to this day. He and his wife had been to Gettysburg before. Multiple times, actually. They were the kind of couple who took ghost hunting seriously, bringing equipment, doing research, and knowing the history behind the locations they visited. So when they returned in November, they knew exactly where they wanted to go. There's a bridge in the area with a dark history connected to the reported hanging of 2 Confederate soldiers. A place with weight to it. A place people don't linger around after dark. They took a few photos on the bridge. Nothing unusual in the moment. No sounds, no feelings, no flickering equipment. Just a cold, quiet November night. On the way back to the car, they pulled up the photos to review them. That's when they both went quiet. In one of the images, right in the spot they had both been standing and looking at, there was something there. Something neither of them had seen with their own eyes. Something that had no business being in that photo. His wife had been shoulder to shoulder with him, both of them staring in the exact same direction. Neither one of them saw anything unusual, but the camera did. They've shown the photo to people. They've tried to find a rational explanation, and they've come up empty every time. To this day, they believe that Bridge gave them something they weren't expecting, proof that they weren't as alone as they thought. It started as a joke. A group of friends were camping late at night, deep in a wooded area. The fire was low, the conversation had died down, and the forest around them was completely still. Then a sound broke through the trees. Strange. Low. Not quite an animal. Not quite anything they recognized.
Wait, do it again.
Yeah.
Watch it. Do it again.
Yeah.
Bug, you might be right.
That is not a fucking owl.
That's not
Do
an owl.
it one more time.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of them, trying to lighten the mood, cupped his hands and mimicked it. Just messing around. Something to get a laugh. Nobody laughed, because the sound came back. Same pitch, same rhythm, but louder this time and coming from deeper in the trees. They looked at each other. One of them shrugged and tried it again. It answered. Again, the joking was over. They grabbed their flashlights and started scanning the darkness around them. And that's when someone spotted it. A shape, just barely visible between the trees to the right. Tall. Still. Not moving at all. It wasn't coming toward them. It wasn't running away. It was just there, standing in the dark, watching. The distance made it impossible to identify. The darkness made it worse. And that combination, not knowing what it was, not being able to see it clearly, was enough. They didn't investigate. They didn't call out. They broke camp and left without saying much to each other. To this day, none of them have gone back to that area. Was it an animal with a strange call? Some kind of echo bouncing off the trees? Or something that had been sitting out there in the dark, listening to them, waiting to see if they'd come closer? They didn't want to find out. A Reddit user got a message from a friend, and inside that message was a photo that stopped him cold. The image came from his friend's uncle's trail camera, mounted deep in the woods. These cameras are motion-activated, designed to catch deer, maybe a fox, maybe a bear passing through in the middle of the night. And at first glance, that's exactly what this looked like. But then you notice what's behind it. A figure, standing upright, positioned unnervingly close to the deer, closer than any person would reasonably stand in the middle of the woods at that hour. It could be someone in a hoodie, maybe, but the shape is off. The posture is wrong, and something about it just doesn't sit right. Here's the part that makes it harder to explain away. Deer are prey animals. They're wired to detect threats. A twig snapping 50 yards away will send them bolting. They don't stand still, while something human-sized creeps up directly behind them. And yet there, it is calm, undisturbed, completely unbothered by whatever is standing right behind it. The deer appeared in multiple photos from that same camera, taken over several days. Confirmed real, the figure appeared in exactly one image. Never before, never after. One frame, or one moment, and then gone like it was never there. So what was standing in those woods? A person? A trick of light and shadow? Or something the camera picked up that the deer somehow already knew not to fear? A woman living on the edge of a wooded area stepped outside. One night, just to test her outdoor lights, she wanted to show how far they reached into the yard. She pointed her phone at the tree line, took the shot, and went back inside. Simple. Routine. Nothing special. But when she looked at the photo, she felt something shift. There was a face in the image, barely there, just at the edge of the light, where the yard meets the trees. Faint enough that you might dismiss it on first glance. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. She brightened the photo to get a better look. That made it worse. The face became clearer. Still not sharp, but defined enough that the people who later analyzed the image couldn't dismiss it as a shadow or a trick of compression. The shape was too deliberate, the features too specific. Something was standing at the tree line while she was outside. Something she never saw in real life. Something that was close enough to the edge of her property to be caught in the light, but far enough in the dark to stay hidden. Viewers who examined the footage came up empty. Analysts couldn't offer a clean explanation. Just one quiet night, one routine photo, and one face that had no reason to be there. She hasn't gone outside alone at night since. Before we go any further, I'd like to ask you for a quick favor. If you are enjoying the video so far, please give it a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time. We're getting closer to 30,000 subscribers, and once we hit that milestone, a few lucky subscribers will receive a special surprise. Now let's go back to the video. While trekking deep into the Appalachian wilderness for a midday camping trip, two friends noticed a sudden, heavy silence fall over the forest. The footage starts as they navigate a dense thicket, where a tall, matted figure is seen crouched in the shadows of the brush, watching them with a chilling stillness. The tension breaks instantly when the figure stands upright, revealing a massive, gaunt frame covered in layers of dark, tangled hair. Instead of retreating, the wild man begins to move toward the hikers with a fast, jagged stride that feels disturbingly human. Its proportions are unsettling. and it shows no fear of the two men, closing the distance between the trees and the trail with terrifying speed. The encounter ends in a blur of motion as the hikers turn and run, their heavy breathing filling the audio as they flee back toward civilization. The camera catches one final shaky glimpse of the figure standing in the middle of the trail, watching them retreat before it melts back into the green labyrinth of the mountains. They left their gear behind and never looked back, leaving only this footage as proof of what they found. If you were miles from the nearest road and realized you were being hunted in broad daylight, would you ever go back? A car accident near Yellowstone National Park, late at night. A vehicle flips on the highway, and somehow the driver gets out and walks away. The dash cam keeps recording. For a moment, nothing happens. The overturned car sits there in the dark, still, smoke rising, hazard lights blinking, and then it starts shaking, not a little violently. The whole frame rocking back and forth like something is pushing against it from outside. But there's nothing there. No animals in the frame. No other people. No wind strong enough to explain it. The road around the car is completely empty. Then something strikes it. Hard. A visible impact. The car jolts, and still, there's nothing visible that could have caused it. Experts who reviewed the footage couldn't identify a natural explanation. The force was too significant, too directed, too specific to be dismissed as settling or mechanical movement. No animal attack. No person. No debris. Just an empty road, an overturned car, and something that hit it with enough force to shake the whole frame and left no trace of itself behind. That stretch of highway near Yellowstone had never had a report like this before. It hasn't had one since. In 2013, a short video started spreading across the internet, not because it was dramatic or loud, but because it was quiet in a way that felt deeply wrong. The footage was filmed at night, from inside a car, pointed out at a parking area somewhere in the United States. Above one of the parked cars, something hovers, completely motionless. No sound. No flashing lights. Just a dark object hanging in the air like gravity had forgotten about it. And then the beam appears. A column of light extends downward from the object and begins sweeping slowly across the car beneath it. Not flickering, not swinging, moving with the kind of controlled, deliberate precision that doesn't suggest malfunction or coincidence. It moves like something operating it, like something looking. Some people placed the location near Port Huron, close to Lake Huron. Others claimed they'd seen nearly identical footage taken in entirely different states around the same time period. No government agency addressed it. No official explanation was released. The video was never debunked, but it was never confirmed either. It just exists. Sitting online, 15 seconds of something hovering silently above a car, running a beam of light across it slowly and carefully in the middle of the night. And whatever it was, it didn't seem to be in any hurry. A young man was exploring an abandoned house late at night. The building had been empty for years, and locals avoided it after dusk. As he points his camera toward a distant window, he sees it a shadowy figure standing completely still. You can just make out the shape of a head, staring from the dark interior, like someone or something is watching. The air grows colder. Every step echoes unnaturally. He moves closer, heart pounding, on trying to capture the figure on camera. But when he gets near, the window is empty. Just darkness. No doors open. No hiding spots. The figure has vanished. Completely.
Guys, ada yang lihat sesuatu nggak ya? Sebentar. Kalian ngelihat sesuatu nggak ya? Tuh. Ya kan? Hilangkan. Astagfirullahaladzim, la haula wala quwata illa billah. La ilaha illallah. Apa ya? Hah? Gak tahu gak? Apa gak? Apa guys?
Locals say the place is haunted by spirits that only appear from afar, vanishing when approached. The silence presses in. The shadows feel alive. If something was watching you from inside an empty house, would you dare to step closer? A security guard was on a routine shift, monitoring the cameras at his remote post, somewhere in the mysterious Appalachian mountains. The kind of place where the wind whispers through the trees and shadows move when you're not looking. Everything seemed normal, until the monitor started showing something that didn't belong. At first, it was subtle faint movements in the distance, shapes slipping between the trees. Then, more alarming sounds began echoing across the footage. Low, the guttural noises that didn't match any animal he knew. His heart started racing as the camera captured something or someone watching from the darkness. His dogs, trained to alert him to danger, began growling off-screen, tense and rigid. And just when he thought it was safe, a chilling scream cut through the night. A woman's cry, desperate and raw, bouncing between the mountains, as if something, or someone, was tormenting her. The guard froze, staring at the screens, and in that moment, he realized the cameras weren't just recording. They were watching him too. What would you do if you saw that on your monitor, and knew the thing behind it was still out there? A tourist was hiking alone through a national park when something on the trail ahead made them stop. Something was moving, low to the ground, fast and wrong. They ducked behind a tree and pulled out their phone without making a sound. What they captured still hasn't been explained, moving through the trees on all fours, hands and feet, moving with a speed that didn't seem right, was a small figure dressed entirely in black. Not an animal. The shape was wrong for that. Too symmetrical, too deliberate in its movement. Looked like a child, a small child, crawling through the forest floor at a pace that no child should be able to sustain in a national park, in an area with no nearby campground, with no adult anywhere in sight. It didn't look up. It didn't stop. It moved through the frame and disappeared into the trees like it knew exactly where it was going. The tourists stayed behind that tree for a long time before they felt safe enough to move. When they reported it to park staff, no missing children had been reported in the area. No explanation was offered. The footage exists. What's in it? Nobody has been able to say for certain. When he pulled up the night vision feed, so he didn't go back to sleep. Two figures were moving down the road, slowly, steadily, side by side. They weren't human. The proportions were wrong tall, with long white legs that moved in a way that didn't match any animal native to the area. And behind them, trailing close, were smaller shapes. Following. Keeping pace. The camera footage was clear enough to study. Clear enough, apparently, that when it was investigated and reported, it ended up airing on a local news channel in 2011. No wildlife expert could make a confident identification. No one in the neighborhood reported seeing anything unusual that night, except the dog, who apparently saw plenty. Whatever those figures were, they moved through that neighborhood in the middle of the night, calm and unhurried, like they had every right to be there. Nobody has seen them since. The first time they saw her, they thought nothing of it. A tall girl in white, walking along the path ahead. Alone, slow, just moving through the park. Strange hour for a walk, but not impossible. But then the jogger moved to a different part of the park, and there she was again. Same girl, same white clothing, same unhurried walk. The jogger changed direction, covered ground, ended up on a completely different trail. And there she was. Again. By the third or fourth time, the jogger had their phone out and was recording. The footage shot across multiple locations, different angles, and different parts of the park shows the same tall figure in white, moving through the dark trails like she belonged there, never reacting, never acknowledging the jogger, never appearing to notice that someone was watching and recording her. How was she in multiple places across the park that fast? How did she keep showing up no matter which direction the jogger went? The person who filmed it said it was the most disturbing experience of their life. They haven't jogged in that park at night since. And honestly, can you blame them? A middle school girl was just testing her phone camera, recording the quiet area near her school. Old trees lined the path, rusted iron fences groaned in the wind, and the narrow street rarely saw anyone pass by. At first, everything seemed normal. Leaves rustled in the breeze. The evening sun cast shadows across the tree trunks. The calm almost felt comforting. But when she replayed the video, something froze her blood. Near one of the trees, another girl stood, her uniform faded, her hair covering half her face, and her feet didn't quite touch the ground. Locals say that years ago, a student ended her life on the nearby road. Since then, some have reported seeing a guardian standing silently under that same tree, as if waiting for someone to notice. The strangest part? When someone else recorded the same area at a different time, the figure never appeared again. Only in the first video. Only once. As if she appeared not to scare, but to be remembered. If spirits can truly appear on camera, are they trying to terrify us? Or are they just hoping someone knows they existed? It was late afternoon, not even dark yet, when a man was walking through a dense forest trail. The sun was starting to lower, casting long shadows between the trees. Birds were quiet. The air felt strangely heavy. Then out of nowhere, he heard it. A sharp, painful scream echoed through the woods. It didn't sound like a normal animal. It sounded distressed, almost human. He stopped walking, trying to locate where it came from. The forest suddenly felt different, like everything was listening. Then the scream came again, slightly closer, cutting through the silence. Fear hit him instantly. Even though it was still daylight, he didn't feel safe. He turned and ran, branches hitting his arms as he rushed back the way he came. Because sometimes, it's not the darkness that makes something terrifying. If you heard a scream like that in the middle of the afternoon, would you go check or get out before it checks on you? Late at night, a man was driving down an empty, isolated road that passed beside an abandoned hospital. The area was completely silent, with no other cars or streetlights around. As his headlights swept across the roadside, he suddenly noticed a small child standing alone near the edge of the pavement. The child wasn't moving, just standing there, staring. The man slowed down, confused and concerned about why a child would be outside at that hour. Thinking the child might be lost, he stepped out of his car and carefully walked closer. But as he approached, the beam of his headlights revealed something horrifying. The child had no visible eyes, no mouth, no facial features at all. Before he could even react, the child began to move toward him, slowly at first, then with a strange, silent laugh.
No manches, un chaneque. Chaneque, un chaneque. Un chaneque. No manches. Chaneque. Oh, chaneque. No manches. Griten, chaneque.
Panic instantly took over. The man turned and ran back toward his car, his heart pounding as the figure continued coming closer in the darkness. If you saw something like that alone on a deserted road, Would you stop to help? Or would you drive away without looking back? Late at night on a lonely stretch of the Sumatra highway, a truck driver was filming as he drove. The road was empty, the lights scarce, and all you could hear was the engine and the beam of his headlights cutting through the darkness. Up ahead, a container truck appeared, badly damaged, dents everywhere, front crushed, parts twisted unnaturally. Yet it kept moving slowly in its lane. Curious and uneasy, the driver passed it to get a closer look. Through the side window, and even the front cabin, there was no one inside. No shadow, no movement. The seat was empty. Still, the engine roared. Lights shone, wheels rolled, as if some unseen force was steering it. Moments later, the truck's speed shifted on its own, and slowing down, then stabilizing again, leaving a chill in the driver's spine. Old truckers say there's a legend about trucks that continue the journey. Vehicles that met accidents, yet somehow are guided to finish their last trip. After a few seconds, the truck turned into darkness and vanished, leaving the road silent, as if it had never been there. On the highways of Sumatra at night, how can you be sure every vehicle you see is driven by someone still alive? A man was walking deep in the forest when he suddenly heard a desperate scream echo through the trees. It wasn't the sound of an animal, it was human. Without thinking, he ran toward the noise, pushing through branches and thick brush, his heart pounding harder with every step. When he reached a small clearing, someone froze. A wild animal was on top of another man, attacking him viciously. The victim struggled beneath the weight of the creature, trying to protect himself. The witness quickly ducked behind a nearby tree for cover, his hands shaking as he tried to process what he was seeing. From behind the tree, he began shouting, making as much noise as he could to scare the animal away. His voice cracked as he yelled again and again, hoping the sound would force it to back off. In moments like that, with a predator only a few feet away, would you risk stepping out to help, or stay hidden and pray it doesn't notice you next? A group of friends were camping deep in the forest, far from any ranger station or nearby road. The night had been calm, just the sound of insects and the faint crackle of their campfire. Then suddenly, the bushes exploded with movement. A bear charged straight into their campsite without warning. Before anyone could react, the bear lunged at one of the campers, knocking him to the ground. The attack was fast and violent. Another friend scrambled up a nearby tree in pure panic, clinging to the trunk for safety. From above, he started shouting and throwing whatever he could to distract the bear, trying desperately to pull its attention away from his friend below. The forest filled with screams, growls, and chaos. In moments like that, there's no time to think, only to survive. Watching the footage, you can feel the fear and helplessness. If you were there, deep in the wilderness with no help in sight, would you risk your life to save your friend, or focus only on staying alive? A man was walking down a narrow road that cut straight through the middle of a forest late at night. There were no streetlights, no houses nearby, just darkness and the sound of insects in the distance. As he looked ahead, he noticed something strange in the middle of the road. Far down the path, a white shape appeared. At first, he thought it was fog. But then it moved. Not walking, not running, floating. It slowly drifted from one side of the road to the other, then back again. The shape looked almost human, but there were no clear features, just a pale outline hovering above the ground. He stood frozen, trying to convince himself there had to be a logical explanation. The figure continued gliding across the road, silent and steady, as if unaware, or maybe fully aware, that it was being watched. The forest around him felt tighter, quieter, like it was closing in. If you saw something like that blocking your path in the middle of the night, would you keep walking forward or turn around before it notices you? During an exploration inside a remote cave in Mexico, a team of scientists accidentally captured something chilling on camera. The footage shows a massive, unidentified creature deep within a narrow underground passage. What shocked the researchers most wasn't just its size. It was the enormous eyes dominating its body, reflecting the flashlight in a way that didn't look natural. Based on the width of the rocky tunnel where it appeared, experts tried to estimate its scale. The passage itself wasn't large, yet the creature filled a disturbing amount of space. According to their calculations, a single eye could have measured nearly 1 meter in diameter. The atmosphere in the video feels tense, with the scientists whispering and adjusting their light, unsure of what they were looking at. Every movement of the beam revealed just enough to make the moment even more unsettling. When they attempted to move closer, the situation became even stranger. The second the flashlight was switched off, the creature vanished without a sound. No footsteps, no splashing, no shifting rocks. It was simply gone. Some researchers later speculated that it may have been serpentine in form, possibly adapted to extreme darkness. Considering that most cave systems around the world remain largely unexplored, and it makes you wonder, what else could be hiding just beyond the reach of our light? Imagine scrolling through a dark, grainy forest photo, and something about it feels off. At first, it's just another shadowy figure, but then you notice the face. Pale, distorted, smiling unnaturally from the darkness. Something about it makes your brain hesitate, just a moment too long. That's when it hits you. You've been staring right at it, thinking it's part of the background. But the truth is, it's been staring at you far longer than you've stared at it. Every instinct in your body screams danger, yet it remains perfectly still, watching silently, almost patient. The analog grain only makes it harder to trust what your eyes are seeing. The terror isn't in an attack. It's in the realization that you've been too late to notice the threat standing in front of you all along. If you were there, alone in that forest, and you realized it had been watching you this whole time, would you freeze or run and never look back? That night, he had a simple plan: hunting foxes in a field he knew like the back of his hand. Under the dim light, he sat quietly, gently stroking his owl, calming his instincts before releasing it into the night. The wind barely moved. The grass whispered softly. Everything felt ordinary. But then, the calm shattered. In the distance, at the edge of the dark, where the light no longer reached, a white figure appeared. It didn't walk. It didn't run. It hopped. Slow, deliberate jumps, like it knew someone was watching. Every movement was unsettling, unnatural. His spine tingled. The owl that had been calm moments before suddenly flapped nervously. The camera shook. His breath caught in his throat. He came looking for foxes. But that night, something else found him. Something that didn't belong in that field. If you were standing there, alone in the dark, watching that shape move toward you, would you stay? Or would you turn and run without looking back? Late at night, near a cemetery beside a dark wooded area, a man noticed something unusual and quickly began recording from behind a nearby wall. The graveyard was supposed to be empty at that hour, with nothing but silence and rows of headstones under the night sky. But through his camera, he captured something that didn't look human. On the other side of the wall, a white figure could be seen moving slowly between the graves. It wasn't walking normally. It seemed to drift, circling around one specific grave, then shifting toward another. The shape looked pale and almost glowing against the darkness, making it stand out in a way that felt unnatural. The person recording stayed quiet, barely breathing, afraid the figure might notice him. The white form continued roaming around the burial ground, never making a sound, never clearly revealing what it was. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it seemed to fade into the shadows of the cemetery. Was this just a trick of the night and camera light, or did he capture something that was never meant to be seen, wandering among the graves? That night, the air was still. Not a breeze. The leaves hung motionless. Everything seemed quiet. Almost too quiet. At first, all you could hear was the faint snap of a twig, soft and deliberate, somewhere nearby. Then, the camera panned upward, and that's when it appeared. A white figure. Just standing there, high up in the dark branches of the tree. It didn't move. It didn't make a sound. It just watched. The longer you stared, the heavier the silence felt. Every second stretched out, like time itself was holding its breath. Even when the camera shifted slightly, the shape didn't change. It remained there, rigid and unblinking. Was it just a piece of cloth caught in the branches? Or was something truly standing there, watching from above in the dead of night? The night atmosphere was calm and quiet, just like any other evening. Several local residents were gathered outside the home of a village head candidate, casually talking and spending time together. Nothing seemed unusual until a strange red light suddenly appeared in the sky above them. At first, people tried to explain it. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't a drone. The glowing red light moved slowly, floating, almost hovering, and gradually drifting closer toward the house. When some of the residents began whispering the word Banaspati, a mysterious fireball often mentioned in local folklore. The recording clearly captures the moment the red glow becomes visible in the dark sky before shifting position and drawing everyone's attention. The light hangs there for several tense seconds, glowing intensely against the night, before suddenly disappearing without a trace. No explosion. No sound. Just gone. Was this simply a rare natural phenomenon caught at the perfect moment? Or did the camera capture something far more unusual? In June 2024, a woman was walking home after 7 p.m. through a lonely forested area far from town. The road was dark, quiet, almost empty. Then she began hearing strange noises all around her, like someone calling her name or following her. A creeping fear started to take over. Suddenly, something terrifying emerged from the shadows. A ghostly figure, large and unnatural, chased her at full speed. Dogs barked loudly from every direction, adding to the chaos. Her face went pale with sheer panic as she ran as fast as she could, desperate to escape. After some time, she glanced back. The figure was gone, but the terror lingered. So, what do you think she encountered that night? Could it have been a ghost, a cryptid, or something far stranger lurking in the darkness? In the middle of a dark road, lit only by motorcycle headlights, a group of young men froze when they clearly saw a Pocong standing ahead of them. wrapped in white, completely still. The air felt heavy, but instead of backing away, one of them stepped forward. Then another followed. Their fear quickly turned into adrenaline, shouting into the night as if challenging the figure that stood stiffly at the edge of the road. They moved closer, just a few meters away, and strangely, the Pocong began to move backwards slowly, almost like it was retreating, losing courage. The guys kept advancing, their voices louder now, their steps faster. For a brief second, it felt like they were actually scaring it off. Then, without warning, the figure suddenly shot upward. Not jumping, not climbing, but gliding straight up in an unnatural motion, hovering, then flying rapidly into the darkness like a streak of white light, disappearing between the trees. The wind swirled for a moment, and then silence. Complete silence. So if you were standing there and saw it flee into the sky like that, would you chase it? Or realize something far worse might be waiting above you? Late at night, under harsh streetlight glow, a crowd had gathered around a man standing completely still. Wrapped tightly around his neck and upper body was a massive snake. Its thick body coiled across his shoulders, its head slowly lifting and lowering near his face. The man wasn't screaming, but you could see the tension in the way he held his breath. A few people cautiously stepped forward, trying to grab the snake and pull it away. But every time they touched it, the snake tightened slightly, its muscles flexing under the light.
En estos momentos estamos viendo que a una persona le caseó una boa y los amigos están ayudando a sacar aquí al amigo que estaba a punto de tragar a la boa a este amigo, y ahorita estamos aquí luchando para poder sacarle. Estamos luchando por poder sacarle y el amigo ya está muerto y estamos aquí luchando para poder sacarle y felizmente actuamos a tiempo y estamos aquí ya terminando de sacarle al amigo.
The crowd's voices overlapped, some shouting instructions, others panicking. The scene felt chaotic, unpredictable. One wrong move and things could turn deadly in seconds. The camera shakes as someone reaches again for the snake's tail. The man's eyes stay locked forward, afraid to move. In moments like that, time feels slower than it should. So if you were standing there, would you risk grabbing the snake to save him? Or step back and hope it lets go on its own? The footage was said to be recorded by a man from Vancouver while he was standing in a dark area with very little light. At first, everything seemed normal, just a quiet night, the camera's flashlight cutting through a thin layer of fog. Nothing unusual, just silence and open space. Then the calm broke. From somewhere in the distance, a deep, heavy sound echoed out. Not quite human, not quite animal. Seconds later, a large shadow began forming in the darkness. It stood upright, slowly moving closer. The air reportedly felt hotter, heavier, like the space around him was tightening. According to local belief, the figure was thought to be a Gendero, and it sounded furious. A loud roar exploded through the night, long, rough, almost like an enraged lion. The roar didn't come just once. It echoed repeatedly, from more than one direction. The camera started shaking. The flashlight beam jerked wildly as panic set in. In local tradition, when a Gendero roars like that, it's believed to be defending its territory, a warning for humans to leave and never return. The recording ends abruptly at the peak of that terrifying sound, followed by sudden silence. And sometimes, silence is worse than the roar itself. We've all heard stories about satanic cults and strange ritual circles whispered about in small towns. But this footage feels different. It was reportedly filmed by a private investigator in rural North Carolina, after a desperate father hired him to search for his missing daughter. Locals had long claimed that people had been disappearing in that area for years, but no one ever had proof, until now. The video shows a group gathered in an abandoned field in the countryside. It's late. The only light comes from small flames arranged in a rough circle. Hooded figures stand silently, moving in slow, deliberate patterns. At one point, one of the figures suddenly turns, as if sensing they're being watched. The chanting stops. The investigator reportedly left immediately after that moment. What he discovered that night was described as deeply disturbing, though details were never fully released to the public. The missing girl was never found. And the field? Locals say no one goes near it after dark anymore. So if you were that investigator, hiding in the shadows, and one of them slowly turned toward you, would you keep filming or start running? The CCTV shows a small child walking alone near the shoreline. No adults nearby. No one calling out. Just a tiny figure moving slowly across the frame. At first, it feels like a normal moment. Maybe a kid who wandered off for a second. But then something feels off. The child's movement looks distant, almost detached from the environment. The waves roll in, the wind moves the sand, and within seconds, without running, without ducking behind anything, the figure simply disappears. Not fading into darkness, not stepping out of frame, just gone. The beach remains empty, still, silent. Security reviewed the footage again and again. No missing child was reported that night. No one claimed to be there. Just a recording of a small figure walking alone and vanishing into nothing. Was it just a strange camera glitch? Or did the beach capture something that was never meant to be seen? If you saw that playback alone in a dark room, would you be able to watch it twice? That afternoon, the sky was glowing orange as a ghost hunter casually filmed a quiet forest that was slowly emptying before nightfall. Sunlight poured through the trees, stretching long shadows across the ground. He walked calmly, talking to the camera, saying this was just a light exploration before dark. Everything felt normal, peaceful even. And then, without warning, it changed. The wind stopped completely. The bugs went silent. The warm orange sky faded unnaturally fast, like someone dimmed the world in seconds. Not a sunset, more like a switch being flipped. He stopped walking. His breathing grew louder. The camera kept recording, but the colors looked wrong. Too dark, too sharp.
Kukira tadi ada ular masuk leng. Loh, apa itu? Apa itu teman-teman barusan? Sebelah sana teman-teman.
The trees seemed taller. The path didn't feel familiar anymore. And between the black trunks, far in the distance, stood several tall, thin figures, completely still, just watching. He tried to step back, but his legs felt heavy, like the ground was holding him in place. Faint whispers surrounded him, layered and directionless, calling out in a language he couldn't understand. Then, in a blink, birds chirped again. The wind returned. The sky went back to orange. The forest looked normal. The figures were gone. The footage only shows a strange shift in light, nothing else. So, if the world around you suddenly changed like that, would you call it a hallucination, or believe you stepped somewhere humans aren't meant to be? That afternoon, a hiking trail looked empty and damp from rain the night before. Thick forest pressed in on both sides, making everything feel quieter than it should have been. A solo hiker was filming his walk, casually narrating, enjoying the sound of his boots against wet ground and leaves brushing in the light wind. It felt peaceful, isolated, but peaceful. As he rounded a small bend, he noticed a man standing just off the trail. Simple clothes, no expression, half hidden between the trees. The hiker assumed he might be a ranger or a local, so he gave a friendly greeting. No response. The man just stared, blank, unblinking. The silence stretched a little too long. Feeling uneasy, the hiker continued forward. But after a few steps, that strange feeling crept in, like he wasn't alone anymore. When he glanced back, the man was gone, and then, just seconds later, standing ahead on the narrow trail, was the same man. Closer this time, in the exact same stiff posture. Silent. Staring. There was no side path, no shortcut, no way he could have gotten there first. The camera kept rolling, but the tension in his breathing said everything. So if you were on a trail with only one way in and one way out, would you keep hiking forward, or turn back before the forest decided otherwise? A group of friends were driving through a quiet wooded road, expecting nothing unusual. The trees were thick, the road completely empty, until they spotted a woman standing alone ahead of them. At first, it seemed like she might need help, but as they got closer, they noticed she was holding a knife. She wasn't just standing there. She was talking, arguing with someone who wasn't visible. Her mood kept shifting, calm one second, aggressive the next. When the friends tried to ask if she was okay, her grip tightened and her behavior became more unpredictable. That's when they realized something was very wrong. They quickly backed up and sped away.
What the fuck? What the fuck? Das ist niemand Auto of so, hè? Hallo? 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 What the fuck? What the fuck? Hey!
Later, authorities confirmed the woman was arrested, but the fear from that silent road still haunts them. And it makes you wonder, if they had stepped out of that car, what might have happened next? It was a warm day in July 2019 at Yellowstone National Park. Tourists gathered near the famous Old Faithful area, phones out, cameras rolling. In the middle of the crowd stood a massive wild bison. Calm, still, almost posing. People edged closer and closer, ignoring the posted rule to stay at least 25 yards away. It didn't look angry. It didn't look tense. It just stood there. For several long moments, nothing happened. The group lingered only a few feet away, and then, without any visible warning, the bull exploded forward. In one sudden burst of power, it charged straight into the crowd. A 9-year-old girl was struck and launched several feet into the air before hitting the ground. Screams filled the air. People scattered in every direction as the bison moved through the chaos it had just created. Miraculously, the girl survived with non-life-threatening injuries. But the video spread quickly, shocking millions who saw how fast a peaceful scene turned violent. Bison may look slow, even gentle, but they are wild, unpredictable, and unbelievably strong. And if an animal that size gives no warning before it moves, would you recognize the danger in time? It starts inside a wild-style zoo enclosure. A male lion stands just a few feet away from his keeper, calm, watching. The keeper, maybe without thinking, locks eyes with him. And in the wild, that's not just a look, it's a challenge. a signal of dominance, a threat. For a split second, nothing happens. Then the lion explodes forward, one powerful lunge, claws out. The keeper barely has time to react before the massive predator slams into him. It's pure instinct, fast, silent, overwhelming. You can hear the panic, the sudden realization that this isn't a trained house cat. This is a top apex predator responding exactly the way nature designed him to, and then something no one expects. A lioness rushes in. She wedges herself between them, disrupting the attack. Her presence shifts the energy. The male hesitates. The chaos slows. Somehow, the keeper survives. It's a chilling reminder that captivity doesn't erase instinct, and that sometimes survival depends on forces you never saw coming. If one simple look can trigger that kind of reaction, how safe do you think you'd be standing that close? Local residents in Brazil filmed a massive anaconda slowly gliding toward the riverbank deep inside the Amazon. At first, it almost looks peaceful, the way it moves through the water, smooth and controlled. But then you notice the scale, the thickness of its body, the length stretching farther than the camera can comfortably frame. And suddenly, it doesn't feel majestic anymore. It feels prehistoric. According to scientists, the Amazon is home to some of the largest snakes on Earth, including the green anaconda, one of the heaviest snake species ever recorded. And the one in this footage, it appears to be a record breaker. Its body is so wide that imagining it without the safety of a screen becomes unsettling. Standing just yards away, hearing the water shift as it moves, you'd realize how small you really are. The Amazon rainforest has always hidden giants beneath its canopy. This one just happened to be caught on camera. But if a snake this large can exist openly near a riverbank, what else could be living deeper in those waters, far beyond where cameras ever reach? Along the train track, something strange appeared, a bright, glowing sphere of blue light just a few meters away. The footage shows it suddenly materializing, hovering near the rails, as if it wasn't bound by anything physical. Some suggest it could be an unusual electrical phenomenon. Others argue it doesn't match any known discharge or natural explanation. No solid object is visible. No sound accompanies the light. And no one knows for sure why it appeared or where it went. The video is shared exactly as it was recorded. No edits, no filters, just raw footage. So if you were standing there, watching that strange blue orb flicker in the night, would you step closer to investigate? Or take a step back and wonder what you just witnessed? This is exactly why people say never go into the forest alone after dark. What started as a quiet solo hike quickly turned into something far more disturbing. The creator was calmly filming the trail ahead when they began to feel it, that strange sensation of being watched. At first, it was just small sounds, leaves shifting, faint steps off the path. But every time they turned the camera toward the trees, nothing was there. Then it happened.
Yep. I can't go home. I'm leaving. What is that? Fuck is it? Dude, no! It looks like a person, man. But no person. It looks like a fucking person.
Deep between the trunks, something moved. Not clearly, not fully visible, just a shape slipping from one tree to another. The way it moved wasn't normal walking. It was controlled, smooth, always staying just out of clear view, almost like it didn't want its face seen. The creator's breathing changes in the footage. You can hear the fear building as they realize, whatever it is, it's pacing them. We're analyzing the full clip frame by frame to study the movement patterns and figure out what was actually in those shadows. I track some of the most unexplainable encounters from around the world, and clips like this don't show up twice. So if you saw something following you in the dark that refused to fully reveal itself, would you stop and confront it, or pretend you never saw it at all? It was filmed using a Sony Handycam TRV-36 Hi8, and the footage looks old grainy like something straight from the early 2000s. The video shows an empty playground at night. No kids, no wind, just the faint hum and static of the camera capturing the dark, quiet scene. Shadows stretch across the ground, and the tall yellow slide stands alone, almost glowing in the weak light. The camera slowly moves toward the slide. At first, everything seems normal. The ladder, the platform, the dark tunnel at the top. Then something appears. From inside the slide, a solid white object begins to descend. Slowly. Not sliding like a person, not tumbling, just moving steadily down the enclosed tunnel. It doesn't look like clothing. It doesn't look like a child. Just a featureless white form gliding closer and closer. The person holding the camera doesn't speak. You can hear their breathing quicken as the object nears the bottom. And just as it's about to come out, the camera abruptly shuts off. No scream, no explanation, just darkness. So if you were there, holding a camera, and saw something like that sliding toward you, would you stay to see what comes out, or run before it reaches the bottom? In the middle of a dark forest, a horror content creator walks slowly along a damp dirt path, lit only by his camera's flashlight. The sound of insects fills the air, and tall trees block out the moonlight. He speaks softly to the camera, trying to stay calm. Then suddenly, he stops. Because standing right in the middle of the trail is a white figure wrapped from head to toe, completely still. Facing him, for a few seconds he doesn't move. Neither does the figure. He tries to convince himself it's just cloth caught on a branch. But then, without warning, the figure jumps backward, not turning around, not making a sound. It glides several meters back in one unnatural motion, still facing the camera the entire time. His breathing gets heavier. His hand starts shaking. He slowly steps back, and the flashlight beam shifts for just a second. And when it centers again, the white figure is gone. No footsteps, no sound, nothing. So if you were alone in that forest and saw something move like that, would you chase it to prove it's fake, or run without ever looking back? A group of hikers trekking through the mountains of Virginia were relaxing at the top of a rocky ridge, enjoying the view and catching their breath. The camera shows them laughing, sitting near the edge. Then, a low rumbling sound starts beneath them. At first they think it's just an animal moving inside a cave under the rocks. Maybe a bear, maybe loose stones shifting. The sound grows louder. Suddenly, an earth-shattering roar explodes from below. Not a normal animal sound. This was deep, violent. It echoed through the mountain like something massive was trying to claw its way out from inside it. The ground beneath them begins to shift. Small rocks break loose and start sliding down the slope. One hiker loses footing and nearly slips off the edge. And if it wasn't for another member grabbing him at the last second, he would have fallen straight down the mountainside. The video cuts as the group scrambles away from the ridge, the roar still echoing behind them. Some believe it was a rock slide. Others are convinced it was something far bigger, something territorial. So what do you think was beneath that mountain? A natural collapse, or something like Bigfoot defending its ground? A farmer in rural Mexico began noticing something strange. His field caretakers refused to go out at night. They seemed nervous, distracted, constantly making excuses. When he demanded answers, they stayed quiet. Until one day, after he threatened to fire them, they finally told him the truth. The man claimed he had seen a woman standing alone among the crops before sunrise. At first, he thought she was a trespasser and went to confront her. But when she slowly turned toward him, her face wasn't normal. Hollowed eyes, sunken cheeks, skin stretched tight over bone. And when she opened her mouth to scream, she had a forked tongue. After that, he remembered nothing. The farmer didn't believe in ghost stories, so he decided to patrol the farm himself at night. On the second night, while recording, he captured something standing between the rows. A tall, thin figure, barely visible in the dark. The video ends just as it begins to move toward him. So what do you think is walking through those fields after midnight? A frightened imagination? Or something that was never human to begin with? In Sungai Undan, residents captured a massive crocodile after days of tense surveillance. The reptile was estimated to be nearly 7 meters long and weigh around 1 ton. Locals say the predator had been lurking near the riverbanks, creating fear throughout the community. With no advanced equipment, the villagers used simple tools, bait, ropes, and heavy pieces of wood to trap it. The operation was extremely dangerous. One wrong move could have cost someone their life.
Allahu Akbar! Besarnya! Ya Allah! Ya Allah! Besarnya! Astagfirullahaladzim! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar ya Allah! Allahu Akbar! Tembak-tembak! Muntah! Ikat pelampung tu pelampung ikat! Pelampung! Ya Allah! Ya Allah! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Awas pan. Tali kampung.
The struggle to restrain and drag the giant reptile onto land was filled with high tension. But somehow, no injuries were reported. Once secured, officials evacuated the crocodile to be handled by BKSDA Riau for proper management. But seeing a creature that large pulled from the same waters people use every day raises a chilling thought. If one giant was hiding there all along, how many more are still beneath the surface? A video from 2006 shows a disturbing humanoid figure that many people connect to the urban legend known as the Rake, sometimes called the Monstruo Rastrillo.
La última batería com queda. Que tio, és que per flipar, eh? Que sí, collons, que sí, tia. Escolta, ho sents o no? Ei, va, corre, corre, tia, va!
The footage is low-quality shaky, like it was never meant to capture something clearly. In the clip, a pale, thin figure appears crouched near the edge of a wooded area at night. Its limbs look unnaturally long, its posture wrong, almost animal-like. For a few seconds, it doesn't move. Then suddenly, it shifts forward in a jerky motion. Not walking normally, but crawling, low to the ground. The person filming starts breathing heavily, the camera struggling to focus in the darkness. The figure seems to notice the camera and tilts its head slightly, as if studying the person watching it. The video ends abruptly, cutting to black without explanation. No official source ever confirmed what was captured that night. Some say it was staged. Others believe it was something never meant to be seen. But if you were alone and saw a pale figure like that crawling toward you in the dark, would you stay and record, or drop the camera and run? A fisherman in Indonesia captured something strange on the surface of a quiet river. At first, it looked like a small disturbance in the water, but within seconds, it formed into a visible vortex, spinning tightly, cutting through the calm surface. What made it unsettling was the way it moved. It didn't just spin in place, it traveled rapidly, heading straight toward the shore, as if something underneath was guiding it. The fisherman can be heard breathing nervously as the swirling water approaches land. There was no boat nearby, no visible object beneath the surface, no storm, no strong wind. And then, just as quickly as it appeared, the vortex vanished. The water went still, like nothing had ever happened. Some believe it was caused by underwater groundwater movement, or gas escaping from beneath the riverbed. Others say it could be a rare natural phenomenon science doesn't fully understand yet. And of course, there are those who think it may be something far less ordinary. With so many unexplained anomalies being reported around the world lately, you have to wonder if the water beside you suddenly started moving with purpose. Would you assume it's nature or something else entirely? That night, the sky looked completely normal. Dark, calm, silent. And then, out of nowhere, a ball of fire appeared in the sky. It didn't streak across like a shooting star. It didn't flash and disappear. It hovered, glowing bright, moving slowly and steadily, almost controlled.
Apa emang?
Apa ini nih? Nggak mati-mati nih ya?
Apa banaspati itu emangnya? Hah?
Hantu, Jan.
Oh iya bang. Bang.
Wih, nggak mati-mati dia.
Oh iya bang. Iya tuh bang. Oh iya tuh.
Apa ini ya?
The person filming can be heard whispering in disbelief as the fiery orb drifts across the darkness. Its light stays consistent. No sparks falling, no explosion. Just a stable, floating flame suspended in the air. It doesn't behave like typical space debris. Doesn't look random. It moves with strange calmness before slowly fading from view. Some say it was a rare natural phenomenon. Others choose to stay quiet, unsure of what they witnessed. But the camera clearly captured the moment the night sky revealed something unusual. So, if you looked up and saw a glowing ball of fire hovering silently above you, would you assume it's science or something we still don't understand? Late one night, a couple of security guards noticed something strange across the street. At first, it was just a dark shape moving under a dim streetlight. But the longer they stared, the more wrong it felt. One guard immediately pulled out his phone to record, while the other slowly walked toward the exact spot where the figure had been seen. The street was quiet. No cars, no wind, just tension in the air.
Right now, you guys ain't gonna believe me, but by the fire hydrant, I seen somebody walk by and they disappeared by the tree. I know you think I'm fucking crazy. ¿Viste, güey? Iba pasando, someone was walking by, bro, and they just disappeared when they got by the tree.
Un guardia de seguridad se dirige al lugar donde su compañero
I'm serious,
asegura que
man.
vio algo.
There was a lady walking. ¿Qué pasó, güey? Oh, Regina! Ahí va saliendo. What the fuck? Mira. What the hell?
¿De dónde salió?
Salió de un hoyo, güey, no mames. Mira. Ahí va. What the fuck?
According to them, the dark figure was clearly walking along the road, not running, not floating, just walking. And then it suddenly vanished, not turned a corner, not ducked behind a car, just disappeared. When the guard reached the spot seconds later, there was no one there. Empty pavement, empty sidewalk, nothing. They were about to brush it off. When moments later, the dark figure appeared again further down the street. Same shape, same slow movement. Some believe it could be a witch. Others think it might be something else entirely. So, if you saw a shadow walking at night that vanished right in front of you, would you assume it's your eyes playing tricks, or something watching from the dark? Off the coast of Vancouver, a strange light suddenly appeared in the sky. The video was recorded from a boat when a bright horizontal line cut across the clouds. It moved steadily, kept a constant intensity, and then vanished without a trace. No defined object, no sound, no flashes of lightning, just a mysterious glow hovering above the water. Some say it could be a rare atmospheric phenomenon. Others speculate it's unidentified technology. The video is shared exactly as it was captured. No edits, no filters, no effects. Nothing was added, nothing removed. So if you were on that boat and saw a bright line silently slicing through the clouds, would you try to follow it or watch quietly, wondering what else might be out there? Have you ever watched a thunderstorm where the lightning flashes so fast the sky barely has time to go dark? It almost feels unreal, like the clouds are flickering instead of striking. That kind of non-stop lightning usually isn't random. It's a sign that something powerful is happening inside the storm. One major reason for this is something called convective available potential energy, or CAPE. The CAPE measures how unstable the atmosphere is and how much energy rising warm air contains.
What does that mean?
It's heat lightning. That's what Thomas was. I really don't know what that means.
Oh, I saw something over there.
But for people that haven't seen it, it's crazy.
I mean, I don't think.
That's her name.
Where?
Over there, on the right. It looks like a funnel or something.
Holy shit!
When warm air rises and stays warmer than the air around it, it keeps accelerating upward. The higher the CAPE value measured in joules per kilogram, the stronger those updrafts become. And in storms with very high CAPE, those intense updrafts separate electrical charges inside the cloud much faster. Energy builds quickly. The electric field breaks down repeatedly, and lightning fires again and again, sometimes multiple times per second. So when you see the sky flashing non-stop, you're witnessing a storm packed with extreme instability and power. The real question is, if it's generating that much energy above you, how much stronger could it still become? In the remote rivers of southern and central Thailand, massive freshwater crocodiles lurk beneath the surface. The most feared is the Siamese crocodile, which can grow over 13 feet long. In recent years, small boats carrying fishermen and wood have reportedly been attacked or even destroyed when these crocodiles defended their territory. Experts warn that murky water, strong currents, and thick mangroves make these rivers extremely dangerous, especially at night. You can't see what's beneath you. Officials advise avoiding remote waterways after dark, staying away from riverbanks where crocodiles are known to rest, and never trying to feed or approach them. Thailand's rivers are beautiful, but beauty can hide danger. So if your small boat suddenly rocked in the middle of a silent, muddy river, would you assume it's just the current or something rising from below? Now, drop a comment with the scariest thing that's ever happened to you outdoors. And if these clips genuinely creeped you out, hit like. Subscribe too, because your story might end up in the next compilation.